Good morning. It is Friday, March the 26th, and this is The Drill. Thank you. And now for the daily declaration for spiritual warfare. No doctrine of the devil will be established in your life. My child, until I come, devote yourself to the preaching and teaching and reading of my word. Do not neglect the giftings I have given to you, and be diligent in all spiritual matters. Watch your life and doctrine carefully. Persevere in them. If you do these things, no doctrine of the devil will be established in your life. My word is God-breathed and will teach you, rebuke you from error, correct you, and train you in righteousness, so that you may be my servant, thoroughly equipped for every good work. Do not fear the devil, for I will soon crush Satan under your feet. Prayer declaration. Father, I thank you for warning me to beware of the evil doctrines of the devil. Because of your righteousness, I have been trained in righteousness, and Satan cannot deceive my mind. In your power, I will reject every false wind of doctrine, the evil trickery of men and demons, and the craftiness of Satan's deceitful plotting to destroy my soul. Amen. Thank you very much to all the butchers, bakers, and candlestick makers. My name is Ron. I'm your host and the only true conservative in the United States today. So when I come back, a little bit of the matter of fact, it's the final chapter of Russell Kirk's book, A Concise Guide to Conservatism. Thank you. And now the chapter 11 of Russell Kirk's A Concise Guide to Conservatism. That's actually chapter 12, I'm sorry. What is the Republic? The word republic means public things, the commonwealth, the general welfare, as expressed in political forms. The aim of the collectivist state is to abolish classes, voluntary associations, and private rights, swallowing all these in formless blur of the general will, an absolute equality of condition, equality, that is, of everyone except the clique which rules the state. For Americans, the good commonwealth has been the state in which men and women might follow their own bent, subject only to the dictates of morality and the regulations necessary to the administration of justice. We have never fallen, most of us, into the error that commonwealth means collectivism. Lest we Americans, too, retain only the word republic, but not the reality, we need to undertake the conservative task of restoring in our generation an understanding of that freedom and that order which have expressed and encouraged our national genius. When many people use the word freedom nowadays, they use it in the sense of the French revolutionaries. Freedom from tradition, from established social institutions, from religious beliefs, from prescriptive duties. The conservative endeavors to conserve certain great and ancient things. I do not believe that the great contest in the modern world is simply between two theories of economics, socialism and capitalism, as Bernard Shaw tried to convince women a generation ago. No, I happen to think that the real struggle is between traditional society with its religious and moral and political inheritance and collectivism, under whatever name, with its passion for reducing humanity to a mere tapioca pudding of identical producers and consumers. Without a free economy, freedom of any sort is most difficult to maintain. We cannot afford merely to drift with the current of events, applying the pragmatic solution of considering every case simply upon its own passing merits. Little serious thought seems to be given to the consequences, for one thing, of continuing inheritance taxes at their present rate, yet they now constitute confiscation and are a levy upon capital, not a voluntary contribution out of income toward the maintenance of the republic. And if inherited wealth brings some measure of responsibility to a commonwealth, so do the old disciplines of thrift, self-advancement, and personal ownership. The success of the American Republic and the preservation of our old liberties have been achieved in considerable part by our aversion here in America to divorcing theory from prudence. Liberals and radicals offer to us no solution to our grand difficulties. They either are content to drift with the current of events or urge us to actually row faster down the stream, which they call progress, but which the conservative knows to be decadence. One of the most eloquent of American conservative thinkers was a woman, Agnes Repellier. Miss Repellier was not inclined to exchange the reality of the American Republic for some utopia of the collectivists. Loving her country, she wrote, quote, "If patriotism becomes an emotion too expensively benevolent to make men willing to live and die for something concrete like a king or a country, we shall have nothing left to fall back upon but sexual love, which is a strong individual urge but lacks breadth and scope of purpose. It burned Troy, but it did not build Rome, or secure the Magna Carta, or frame the Constitution of the United States," unquote. Love of the Republic shelters all our other loves. That love is worth some sacrifice. Russell Kirk, about the author, he was born in 1918, passed away in 1994, and he's considered to be one of the foundational thinkers of American conservatism. He wrote more than 30 books on political theory, the history of ideas, education, and cultural criticism, as well as countless essays, articles, reviews, and even ghost stories. He lived and wrote in the village of Mecosta, Michigan, where the Russell Kirk Center, led by his wife Annette, carries on his work of intellectual and cultural renewal. So, back in a minute. Morals simply come down to an issue of the question, do some people deserve to be rewarded, and do some people deserve to be punished? And the answer to that question is yes. And that's not a conservative answer, that is a human answer. All human beings understand that some activities, actions, people deserve to be rewarded and some deserve to be punished. Now that also includes, when we're getting into punishment, getting the ultimate punishment, the death penalty. If we are one that have armies that will inflict injury and death upon opponents, upon people that are bent on destroying our liberties and our way of life, then certainly we also have not a domestic army exactly, but we must concede that there are people, if some people, let's put it this way, foreign people deserve the death penalty, so to speak, for trying to rob us of our liberties and our lives, then so do domestic individuals. There must be certain domestic individuals that deserve to die, that deserve to get the death penalty. So, again, if people deserve to be rewarded, some people deserve to be rewarded, there are also people that deserve to be punished. And it is immoral to shield people from the consequences of their actions. It's immoral to shield somebody from getting a bonus or a raise. It's also immoral to shield somebody from getting demoted or even fired. Along the lines of morals, again, is the idea that anything that is legally available to adults is illicitly available to children. This is the fundamental reason why it is that we don't want to legalize the recreational use of marijuana, heroin, cocaine, etc. As it becomes, again, if it becomes legal, then it becomes illicitly available. Even if we have a law, although I don't know why you would bother to have a law that says minors can't smoke dope. If you're going to let people get stoned all the time, why? If you're going to disregard the law, if your push is always to get rid of more and more laws, then why have even age restrictions? Laws against minors smoking dope or using coke or whatever. But that's the reason that we have drugs being illegal, is not because we want to deny other adults the use of those drugs as much as we want to deny children the use of those drugs. We know of and have seen children not only using drugs, but children smoking, for instance. Tobacco has been legal in this country for centuries, and so it's illicitly available to children. It wasn't until recently that we had laws prohibiting children from possessing or using tobacco products, but it is still available to them if they can find a way to get around the age restrictions. It used to be, I was able to get cigarettes before I was 18 years old because of machines. The machines didn't card you. You just put money into the machine, pull the handle, and you get whatever it is that you want. So, and I'd gotten cigarettes that way. So again, the same thing applies to marijuana, applies to cocaine, applies to heroin, because in the state of California, the government is actually going to put on the ballot a measure to decriminalize the use of cocaine and heroin, along with, I think, psilocybin. So I don't want that to happen because I don't want my children to have access to that. Those are drugs that should remain illegal, and the penalties for using and distributing those drugs should be very stiff, very high indeed. So again, it's not denying the use of, and that's all the left makes the argument. Well, why can't I use it if I've got cancer, or why can't I'm an adult, I'm a free person, why can't I choose to do whatever I want? Simple, because I don't want whatever you want to use ending up in my children's nose or in their veins or in their lungs. A lot of people are always asking, what can I do? What can I do? What can I do? Don't look to Washington. Don't look to Sacramento. Look at yourself in the mirror. Look at your house. Look at what you're doing, the way you're speaking. How is it, for instance, that the left is able to warp so many things in our lives? It's because we are complicit. You and I, as conservatives and faux conservatives, we're complicit in that. And language is one of the ways in which we are complicit. They warp the truth and by warping our language, and they do that with slang and the overuse, the inappropriate use of metaphor. Refuse to participate. Cancel culture. Cancel culture is a fiction. I'm going to say it again. Cancel culture is a psychologistic fiction that the left is perpetrating, and they want the right, conservatives, to realize for them. I've said it before. What if the left had something to say and nobody bothered to listen? How much different, how much better would this country be? And in particular cancel culture. Okay, and you doubt me that there's nothing to it, then tell me, who is cancel culture? Who runs it? Who's the CEO of cancel culture? Who are we talking about when we talk about cancel culture? No answer. Again, you hear about somebody on the news, some left-wing camera jockey on the news uses the term cancel culture, and everybody just assumes it must be a real thing. Nobody ever stops and thinks, what if this is some sort of a psychologistic gag? What if this is just a way to create cancel culture? The more people talk about it, the more people fear it, the more people that respond and react to that fear then end up realizing what Ayn Rand used to call reifying a zero. You end up realizing nothing. It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Think about it. Thank you. One of the ways that the left also frustrates people on the right and encourages us to question our own sanity and eventually just shut up and not even participate is the search for perfect answers. You're going to get a lot of what if, what abouts, that kind of thing. You come up with an answer to a problem. What do we do about this? Well, let's do this. Well, what about X? What about Y? And what they're doing is they're going to keep asking those questions until you can show or prove to them that your solution to their problem is perfect, that it has no downsides at all for anyone, anywhere. And of course, such an endeavor is unrealistic. There's no reason to look for those. What you're looking for is the best possible answer. Problem solving involves identifying the problem, defining the problem, listing the factors that bear on the problem, listing the possible solutions, and picking the best possible solution, not picking the perfect solution. But if you're not aware of that, then you're going to get caught in their trap where they just keep wearing you down. What about? Until you finally start questioning your own sanity. You throw up your hands and say, never mind. You run away, and the next time that you see that person, you head in another direction. And they win. That's the way they win the left all the time, is by simply getting conservatives to quit, to run away. And you can't do that. But the only way that you're going to be able to stand your ground is if you know what it is that they're doing. Don't bother so much with what they're saying. What are they doing? In this particular case, what I'm describing is the search for the perfect answer. Remember that there is no perfect answer, and don't be afraid of cutting off the conversation and telling them that. There's just no perfect answer. You're going to have to choose the best possible answer. Thank you. One of the other ways that the left tries to get over on the right, and it's a very subtle, and again, the left prides itself on its subtlety and nuances, but is to take reality and turn it into a goal. So, for instance, equality. The left comes out. Anytime you feel you're in a position where you can't argue with something, stop and think about, is this goal in fact actually a pre-existent reality? Equality, right? People say, we've got to have equality. And how do you argue with that? You can't. But they use that as the basis for making socialist changes, for trying to smuggle into our lives single payer and things of that nature, and as an excuse to destroy our criminal justice system. The response, if you stop and think, for instance, equality, we already have equality. Equality is guaranteed by the Constitution of the United States. If you see a situation where inequality exists, then it seems to me that you need to get involved in a criminal or civil prosecution. Call the police or file a lawsuit, because we already have equality. Every person, every adult in this country has the power. Another one is empowerment. I'm about to conflate two separate things. One is equality, which already exists, but they turn it into a goal, knowing that you're not going to be able to argue with it. And then they're going to use the word equality as the basis for smuggling in various types of socialist goals. Another one is empowerment. We will empower you. You hear the left say that all the time. Empowerment. So-and-so has been empowered. No, not by the left. Nancy Pelosi didn't empower anybody. The National Organization for Women didn't empower anybody. By the time the National Organization for Women came along, women had already been fully empowered. They had the vote and they had the right to own property. Women got the right to own property in the 1800s and were given the right to vote in 1920. And that's all the power you really need. Okay, if you can vote and you can own property, then the rest of it is up to you, up to your skills, talents, abilities, wisdom, etc. So again, when you feel like you're in a position, you're talking to somebody, you're reading something on Twitter, hear something on TV, and you're thinking, I don't know, that seems impossible to argue with, but you know that what they're going to do is use this word or concept as a way of justifying a socialist solution. Stop and consider the possibility that what they're doing is taking an existent reality and turning it into a goal. One thing I forgot to do when I was reading the chapter 12 of Russell Kirk's book was to make the commentary that throughout the book you realize as you're reading it that it's rather shallow. It leaves you wanting more, doesn't it? It answers some question but leaves a lot of others unanswered. And it happens for a couple of reasons. First of all, because, one basic reason is he conflates conservatism not only with traditionalism and being reactionary, but also with republicanism. And it's not true. What's true is you're a conservative, you're born a conservative, you become a Republican. Or you can also become, I contend that everybody's born conservative, because conservative is about being realistic and about common sense fundamentally, and that everybody's born with that. And that if you're a socialist, it's because you have chosen to turn your back on being realistic and on a common sense. But anyways, back to Russell Kirk. You can read it in the book that what he's doing is assuming that conservatism is a politic and that it is part of being a Republican, part and parcel of being a Republican. And it's no such thing. It is a foundation. Being conservative is foundational to being a Republican. Thank you. One of the reasons that conservatives and Republicans lose is that we get caught up in trying to defend certain concepts and ideas, political or otherwise, indirectly. And then we need to spend more time convincing people or going at things directly. For instance, so many conservatives and Republicans are very squeamish when it comes to the death penalty. They'll support it, but they do it obliquely. They'll talk about law enforcement, or they talk about justice, or they talk about victims and so-called victims' rights. There's no such thing, by the way. So rather than coming out and saying, I'm pro-death penalty, and the reason I'm pro-death penalty is because some people deserve to get punished, and some people deserve the ultimate punishment, and that is the death penalty. And I know that because I know my history, and I know that throughout human history that there has been that human beings have known and understood that some people deserve to get punished and that they deserve to get the death penalty. And I know this because of the way they act. And they act in ways in terms of war, whether it's acting on defense or going out and conquering other territories. And I also know that because there are instances of the history is replete with examples where various rulers have put people to death, because forever we have known that some people deserve to be punished, and that's the way we need to go at that directly. Another issue is oil. Very often the conservatives don't want to come out and be pro-oil. Why? I don't know. I don't see I mean, the death penalty, I can understand why you would kind of be a little bit squeamish about being pro-death. That's kind of a dicey proposition. But with oil, but they'll do it. They'll talk about it in terms of jobs. We need the pipeline from Canada. What kind of pipeline is it? It's an oil pipeline. Oil. And we need to do more to say, because the battle in this country right now, energy-wise, is between oil and oil substitutes. And we have to make a decision as a people, which is better? Which is better for us as individuals and collectively? Oil or oil substitutes? And as conservatives, we know the answer to that question. It's self-evident. Oil is better for me. Oil is better for the country at large. Everything that we do has an oil component to it, whether it's we're driving our cars, whether we're taking the bus, whether or not when you're opening a plastic container to get to a product, that is an oil-based. Plastics are oil-based, and you're putting in an IV. The tube is plastic, oil-based. So we know that oil is better. Electricity can't produce that tube. Electricity isn't going to produce the packaging that is going to help you get products from one place to another. So we need to come out and say we're not just pro-job. We're pro-oil. Oil is what's best for this economy, and make the case and make it again and again and again. Shape the debate. The left wants to play games where we're framing games. Reframe the debate. Instead of a debate about jobs or a debate about the so-called environment, we make it about the debate about oil versus oil substitutes and which is better for this country and, as a matter of fact, the world at large. Is oil perfect? No. We don't claim it is. Neither are the oil substitutes. They're far from perfect as well. As a matter of fact, they're far more flawed than oil is. And that's a good argument, again, in favor of oil. But that's what we need to do as conservatives. There's no reason for us to hide. There's no reason for me to come out and be squeamish about supporting the use of oil and natural gas, for that matter. There's no reason for it. So, as conservatives, stop and think. Are you trying to make a point indirectly? And if you are, consider making the point directly. Some people need to get punished. Some people need to die. Some people should die. Some people should suffer the death penalty. Oil is what's best, not only for our country, but for the world. Because if you make the argument about the environment, you can't win. Okay? There's no way to win that argument. They've already kind of sewn that up. We could, if we had gotten involved in the beginning and reframed some of the smaller debates, we might have been able to win that argument, especially if we reframe it in terms of a property rights issue rather than the environment. But that ship has sailed. Right now, what we need to do is realize that we have to reframe the debate and reframe it so that the issue is direct. Oil or oil substitutes. That's what it comes down to. And not what is best for some abstract or academic idea called the environment, but what is best for us in reality. Thank you. That brings me to the conclusion of another episode of The Drill. And until next time, be honest, be smart, be beautiful. I'm Ron, and that's The Drill.